And Jewish continuity is the code word, the catchphrase that we use to talk about that motivation. And Jewish continuity is very, very important to American Jews. And that, I think, may be what these data were picking up. So I don't like to call it the afterlife good, although that's the standard name for it in the literature. But it's an investment in something that's beyond your own lifespan and that's related to your religion, right, to your religious group. So these are the three aspects of religion, the three aspects of the good. Each of them has different economic characteristics, so it's helpful to analyze them separately. But in practice, operationally, you can't separate them, right? They're each of them intertwined with each other. But today we're doing analysis, so we might think of them separately. So now let me get to the essence of this field. And I'm going to have a very simple outline of the presentation, which I expect you all to memorize immediately. I'm going to start with demand, consumption. Why do people want to be Jewish? And how much do they want to be Jewish? Then we'll go on to production, which is how do they go about making this thing that we call religious expression or religious experience. Then we'll talk about investment, not only in the afterlife good, but in human capital and institutions. And then, of course, we'll end with government policy, which is the way economists always end, right? So let's start with our talking about the demand, the consumption aspects of religion. And religion is a good, so like every good, it's subject to the law of demand. If the price is lower, consumers are more receptive and will want to buy more of it. If the price is higher, it's harder to sell the idea to the consumer, right? Consumers will demand less. This is I'm not saying that price is the only thing that matters, right? It's ceteris paribus. But certainly price is important. It's one of the things you look at when you're deciding on a Jewish lifestyle or when you are deciding on a particular Jewish activity. Now, when we talk about price and the law of demand, we're not just talking about the money price, we're talking about the full price. The full price is the money price plus the value of time. And religion, like any self-produced good, is very time-intensive. That is to say, the time cost is an important aspect of the total cost, an important proportion of the total cost. The more time-consuming it is, the more time-intensive we say the good is, and the more you have to worry about the value of time. We have two budgets, right? We all know that, right? This is not a new idea, is it? Okay. We have two budgets. We have a time budget and we have a money budget. If you've got lots of money, right, you're lucky, right? But nobody has lots of time. We all have 24 hours in the day, period. 7 days in the week, period. You can't trade time. You can buy the services of people to help you allocate your time. And we say that you save time when you do that, but you don't literally save it, right? It's perishable and you've only got a certain amount. Now, how do we estimate the value of time? As economists, we are accustomed, I'm clicking on the wrong thing. There we go. As economists, we're accustomed to using the wage rate as a first approximation of the value of time. Simplest way to think of it is, if you take a day off of work, how much income are you giving up, right? Your opportunity cost. It's your wage multiplied by the number of hours that you have been working. Not everybody works for wages, right? So if you don't work for wages, we call it the shadow wage. It's sort of like what you would estimate your equivalent wage would be if you were working. If you're self-employed and you get profits from your business, there's an implicit wage there that you're earning if you divide the number of hours you work into your total profits, and you get an hourly rate. If you are a housewife or if you are retired, the question is always, what is your opportunity cost? So everybody has a value of time, and we have this concept of a wage, and that's our first approximation of what your time is worth. Now that has some implications that are really interesting for religion. One is that different people have different wage rates, and that means that different people value their time differently. A high-wage person has a higher value of time than a low-wage person, which means that if religion is time-intensive, it's more expensive for a high-wage person than it is for a low-wage person. Think about, we'll take the day off from work again, think about observing one of the Jewish holidays in which you're not supposed to work, right? Well, it has a cost. You give up a day's wages. That's a higher cost for a high-wage person than it is for a low-wage person, right? So high-wage people can be expected to be a little bit lax in their observance of these holidays. They may take off 1 or 2 days at the beginning of Pesach, but not the 1 or 2 days at the end of Pesach. They might take off only 1 day instead of 2 days for Rosh Hashanah, right? These are things that we see actually happening. And the prediction would be, as an economist, that the people most likely to make these shortcuts in their religious observance would be high-wage people, because it's more expensive for them. The other implication of this wage rate as a value of time is that if your wage rate goes up, your religious observance is becoming more expensive, whether it's over your life cycle or whether it's a historical trend for the whole community. And as wage rates rise, we would expect to see people spending less time on religious activities. This is certainly the historical trend in the 20th century. It's also a life cycle trend that we see. And we see different, we get a lot of mileage out of that prediction when it comes to empirical research. Other aspects, other sort of theorems that come out of our knowledge about demand, sometimes it clicks. Don't want that to happen. There should be another. There we go. Okay. Income, there's income effects and there's substitution effects, price effects. Income effects say that a person who has more income, who's wealthier, right, will have a greater demand for all goods, including religion, right? The greater quantity demand. It shifts the demand curve to the right. I guess where you're looking from, it's that way, right? So you would expect wealthy people to indulge more in religious observance. But high wage rates, right, reduce the quantity of religion demanded because it makes time more expensive. So if you have high incomes because you have high wages and most of your income comes from your earnings, we can't make that prediction because you have the wage effects saying you want to consume less religion, observe less, and the income effects saying you want to observe more.